Hello everybody and welcome back to Pokemon Emerald. As you might have guessed, this week we are playing through the game with a Gorebyss. Gorebyss? No idea how to pronounce this Pokemon name. It is the other branch of the Clamperl evolutionary line, so I am interested to see how it does compared to Huntail. The rules for this run are: I can only use the starter in combat, I can't use items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. Gorebyss is supposedly the more special oriented of the evolutions, but I'll have something to say about that later. Anyway, much like with Huntail, our only starting move is Whirlpool, that, as we established in the previous run, is hot steaming garbage, so I'll have to switch to something else as soon as possible. Another similarity with last week's video is the fact that the nature I ended up with it's very bad for the Pokemon I am using, but since I kept it last time, it's only fair to keep it today too. Learning from my previous mistakes, I did not try to use Whirlpool in the first encounter with May, but went straight for the struggle strategy. This proved to be a good idea, as I was able to defeat her without having to reset. Before the grunt in the forest, I was able to learn Confusion through level up, but unfortunately his Poochyena is immune to it, so I was forced to use Whirlpool again. At least the RNG was about even, so it did not take forever. After defeating him, we can make our way to the next town and defeat the trainers there too, but because of the growth rate, I still ended up being a bit underleveled for the first gym. Against Roxanne, I used Whirlpool this time. With a bit more special attack and the 4 times weaknesses, her 2 Geodudes are actually a one-shot. Her Ace Nose Pass is of course not going to be so easy, so I mostly used Confusion because of its higher power and the chance to confuse him. In the end, I did not get any Confusion status, and it took quite a while to defeat, but at the very least I can say that I did it in the first attempt. The Geodude's one-shots were actually not that smart of a move, since now she can use the potions on her ace, making the fight even longer and making it also a lot closer than what a water type with almost 500 PST should do. Next we have the second encounter with our rival May, and for once she proved a tough opponent and defeated me. I got a bit demoralized by that, so I skipped her today. Instead I did Brawly, since I have a psychic move and he should be not that bad. Most of his team is weak to it. The only Pokemon who takes it well is Meditite because of the typing, but it only has Focus Punch as an attacking move, so as long as I keep attacking, it can't do anything. I was a bit surprised to see Makuhita leave, but considering that Machop lived too, it should have been obvious. Fortunately, it's still a 2-shot even after the berry, so it can't do anything to me. Now we have to proceed to Slateport, where there are a couple more grunts waiting for us. Since we established multiple times that Whirlpool sucks, I grinded a bit before them and leveled to 22. Here I learned water pools, and with the first decent water move, it's a lot easier to remove them from existence. The only problem now is that the next match is not going to be so easy. Of course, I am talking about the May 2 fight. Again, I only have an okay non-stab move to deal with Grovyle, while it can spam absorb on me. This time it went a lot better than with Huntail. I lost only once to her starter, not sure why it was easier considering that Huntail had increased special defense, but I think that having a bit more special attack made me defeat Grovyle one turn faster. With May defeated, we can finally reach Moville. Here I could buy Ice Beam, but I forgot about it, so yeah, not the best decision of my life. Fortunately, Watson turned out to not be that bad this time either. Even though my base speed is bad, I still moved first against Voltorb and most of his team. This made things a lot easier, since between that and the fact that he really wants to paralyze me, I had a good number of free attacks that I could use to decimate his Pokémons. His Ace Manectric this time proved why he is the ace and almost defeated me single-handedly, but I was just barely able to defeat it with a sliver of HP left. As always, now that we can use Rock Smash, we can explore more, find the two teams in Meteorfall Cave, and end up in the volcano. The fight against Maxi was easy this time too. Once again, I can just spam water pools and it will deal a lot of damage. Ignoring Intimidate and being super effective on his ace made the fight a walk in the park. He might be a bit more problematic later on, once he evolves Zubat, but that will have to wait. After defusing the situation, we can move on to the next village, where we meet the 4th gym leader. Flannery today stands no chance either. Her team only has fire types, so the water spam is an obvious solution for her team. I guess she could use Sunny Day to make my life harder, but she would have to survive and do it with Torkoal. Spoiler alert, she does not get to play a single turn. Time for the journey back to the start of the game, where we can take on the 5th gym leader. Norman is a bit scary. Today I don't have any moves to cheese the slacking either, so I am a bit exposed, but Water Pulse is still a great move, so this should not be that bad. Spinda manages to confuse me, but by bending the laws of time and space, Gorebyss does not hit itself even a single time throughout the fight. That's unheard of. The fight against the big boy is a bit scuffed. He used Yawn, which is always scary since you are out of commission for a few turns. In the end, he forgot to click the facade button, so I did not take any damage against it, for a surprisingly easy end to this gym battle. Now the rest of the world should be scared, because we finally have a good water move. We can try it out on the Team Aqua admin in the Weather Institute, and even a water pulse is enough to defeat Carvana. Man, that Pokemon defenses are bad. Then again, I should know something about it, since I used it too. I forgot to record the May fight before 4-3, but now that I know Ice Beam, thanks to the TM in the ship, that encounter went very differently than our previous ones. Winona is not a huge problem either. Between Ice Beam and Surf, I can hit all of her team for at least neutral. Pelipper and Skarmory are still a bit worrisome, not because of the damage they can do, but because they might survive and status me or lower my accuracy. In the end, nothing like that happened, so it's a free badge. To give you an idea of how the unrecorded May fight went, we can see how she did in the last one. Most of her team is either weak to water or ice, which means that they are all a one-shot. Again, Pelipper could be a pain, but instead one Psychic takes care of the Pelican. So yeah, no damage taken. Now that we are done with her, we have to go grab the magma emblem that we have to use to enter the Groudon cave. Here we find a lot of Team Magma grunts, and at the end, their leader, who wakes up the sleeping giant just before we arrive. Remember when I said Maxi could have been problematic? Well, I was wrong. Sure, Crobat outspeeds, but since it decides to only use a weak flying move on us, the fight against it is a lot easier than I was expecting. Time to teach a lesson to the other team. We blasted our way through the Team Aqua base until we reached their Admiral, who made us waste some time to let Archie run away. Even though the Admiral is pathetic, it was still able to keep us busy for that coward of Archie to run away. To be fair, it was mostly my bad. I misclicked, so my Tiena lived, so I got confused, and then hit myself a bunch. Anyway, next up is the double fight against the 7th gym leaders. Tate and Liza should not be that bad this time. I have both Surf and Shadow Ball, so I can start with the stab move, but if they set up Calm Minds, I can switch to the Ghost one to hit them on the physical side. The fight is pretty much a repeat of what happened with Huntail. Every turn I can defeat one Pokemon and bring Claydol low, so they heal the doll and send out a new Pokemon for me to defeat the next turn. This goes on for a while until they ran out of both potions and Pokemons, so I can snatch the penultimate badge for myself. Not long after defeating the gym, we have to go help Steven with the Team Magma. This is another double fight, and this one, while it's technically harder since there are more Pokemons that are not weak to water, it still feels extremely boring. Not sure why. It may be because you just keep seeing the same Pokemons over and over again from the rival teams, or maybe because this time Steven controls the second Pokemon, so he often uses a bad move, or maybe because you can just get by mindlessly spamming Surf over and over again. Anyway, the fight is now done, and after picking up the Dive HM from the ex-champion, we can take a dip in the salty pond, because we have to reach the last encounter with Archie. I don't really have much to say about this one either. His team is nothing great, but he is a bit smarter than Maxi, because Crobat takes advantage of his speed to confuse me. This time I do hit myself a few turns, so the fight drags on a bit, but I was never at risk of dying. The red orb turns on and wakes up Kyogre, so now that both legendaries are awake, they start to fight each other. This is obviously not great for the common man, so we have to go ask their dad help. After climbing the crumbling tower, Rayquaza is kind enough to put a stop to the siblings fighting, so we can go back to the main point of the game and take on the last gym. For Juan, I used a mix of Surf and Psychic. I was pleasantly surprised that his Pokémons were not falling over with a single attack, so we can finally have a bit of a challenge. Of course, I am still very overleveled compared to them, so the match is quite one-sided. They can chip me down little by little, but it's a bit too slow, so I was able to get the badge without even getting into the yellow. Now that we have acquired all of the badges, we can finally start the journey to the Victory Road. This pains me a bit to say, but here we find Wally and stomp him into the ground. Today there is very little he can do, as we can just one-shot all of his Pokémons. Even Gardevoir is not that useful since I have a Shadow Ball, so I can hit it on the physical side. I would have really liked Wally to be more involved in the game and have one or two extra matches. At least it was a much better character in the remakes. Now it's finally time to start the league. Here we have to first face off against Sidney. He heavily relies on RNG moves, status effects and debuffs. Unfortunately for him, we are a special attacker, so Intimidate is not going to bother us. And between Surf and Ice Beam, we can take out all of his Pokémons before they even have the chance to lay a finger on me. Pheobe is next, and I have to say I was expecting to not be able to take out her lead Dusclops and get cursed, but instead Gorebyss proved me wrong. That's a great start. Without the curse, removing a quarter of my HP every turn, this fight is kinda easy. Sure, they have a couple of Pokémons with super effective moves, but thanks to our still decent stats, we can take the occasional hits. Between Shadow Ball and Surf, our offensive power is quite high too, so the fight comes to a close in a few more turns. Next up is Glacia, and I was a bit worried about her. Most of her Pokémons resist water and ice, so I am going to have to use Psychic on them. It's a good move, don't get me wrong, but with only 10 PP, I fear that I will run out very soon. I will have to be careful and switch to Surf for the two Glacias, since they don't resist it. Another annoying aspect of this fight is the hail, because I am not immune to it, so I lose a bit of HP every turn. It's not a lot, but if the fight drags on for a long time, it can add up. It may not straight up kill you, but it will put you into the range for some of their other moves. The fight ends up being very close towards the end, but I am able to come out on top with no resets. Our next adversary is a Drake, and I am a lot less worried for this one. I have Ice Beam to take care of most of his Pokémons. Sure, Kindra will be a pain to deal with as usual, but at least it's only one threat in a team of big dragons. Unfortunately, the seahorse gets a paralysis with the body slam, but I came prepared this time. I thought rest so I can recover all of my HP and heal off any status issues. It's a bit dangerous because you have to sit there for a few turns doing nothing, and they could take advantage of the situation to set up a bunch. Fortunately, the AI is not that smart, so that's another win in my favor. Let's hope that this keeps up, and of course I jinxed it. Out of all the ways to go out, being stalled by Milotic has to feel the worst. I sat there for a couple of minutes spamming moves, but ultimately had to give up and restart. Much like with Glacia, I had to rely on Psychic to deal damage, but this time it was not quite enough, so I decided to switch to Return, boosted by the Scarf. If I take any damage or status effects, I'll just rest and hope for the best. This strategy somehow turned out to be the best option. Return is dealing a lot more damage than I thought, and is able to two-shot most of his Pokémons. Even Milotic, who previously walled me, is not capable of enduring 2 hits. After taking down the eel, my chances of winning skyrocketed, because I can simply rest against Whiscash since it is not able to do that much damage. Sure, it can set up with Amnesia, so it becomes hard to defeat, but I prefer that to Gyarados using Dragon Dance over and over and then blasting me into the stratosphere with Hyper Beam. Whiscash also knows Hyper Beam, but that's actually good for me. Since it has to recharge the next turn, that's a golden opportunity to rest, since it will take less hits and so have more HP when I wake up. Gyarados is a pushover and gets defeated by 2 measly ice beams, and that's how Gorebyss became the champion of the Hoenn region. Compared to its brother Huntail, it had a couple less resets, but a few more minutes of playtime. Ultimately, I think I'll have to reluctantly give it to Huntail, since Gorebyss going second benefited from the previous experiences. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, ring the bell, subscribe, and maybe share it with a friend. If you have anything to say, make yourselves heard in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye!